For 1,000 years, the Galactic Empire had ruled the stars. Their fleets were countless, their power unmatched, and their technology beyond imagination. Planet after planet had fallen under their banners, some by force, others by fear. The Empire's name was enough to silence rebellion and crush hope. Grand Admiral Velthar stood upon the bridge of his flagship, Imperial Dawn, gazing at the swirling nebula beyond the viewport. He was tall, proud, and calm, a being who had never known defeat. Under his command, 7 sectors had been conquered. Every campaign had ended in victory, but today he faced something new. Before him floated a holographic projection of an ancient star map, one older than the Empire itself. It showed a cluster of stars surrounded by a faint red border. Across that border, in bold Terran letters, the warning was clear. Forbidden Zone, Terran territory, do not enter. Velthar tilted his head. Terran, the old human word, he murmured. They say these humans vanished centuries ago. Myths and ghost stories, nothing more. The science officer beside him hesitated. Admiral, there are records, classified ones. The old archives mention their wars. They were dangerous. Entire fleets disappeared in battles with them. Velthar smiled, calm and confident. And yet no human empire remains. Their territory is empty. Their warnings, ancient relics. We shall see what they left behind. The officer frowned but nodded. In the Empire, disobedience was not tolerated. Orders were orders. Velthar turned toward his command chair. Prepare the fleet. We cross into Terran space at dawn cycle. When the order was given, the fleet assembled. 200 warships lined up in perfect formation. From orbit, they looked like silver specks gliding through the void. Their destination, the Sol system, the ancient heart of humanity. As they approached the border, strange signals began to appear. The communications officer adjusted the scanners. Admiral, we're receiving transmissions. They're old, extremely old. Translate them, Velthar ordered. A moment later, the bridge filled with a faint, crackling voice, distorted by time but still clear enough to send a chill through everyone present. This is Sol Defense Command. You are entering restricted space. Leave immediately or consequences will follow. The voice was firm, calm, and human. Velthar chuckled. Impressive. An automated message that still functions after centuries. Someone was proud of their warning. The communications officer added, The signal repeats every 10 minutes, Admiral. It originates from an old beacon near the border. Destroy it, Velthar commanded without hesitation. Let it serve as a symbol that the Empire bows to no ghosts. Moments later, one of the cruisers fired a plasma lance. The beacon exploded silently, scattering debris into the void. The crew expected celebration, but the bridge grew strangely quiet. Almost immediately after the explosion, every ship's sensor array flickered. Systems reset. Power levels dropped for a brief second. Then everything returned to normal. Velthar frowned. Report. Temporary energy fluctuation, Admiral. Possibly interference from the explosion, replied the chief engineer. Velthar nodded, unconcerned. Continue forward. We are now in Terran territory, hours passed. The fleet advanced deeper into the silent zone. The stars here seemed dimmer, the void heavier. No signals, no colonies, no ships, nothing but silence. It was as if this region had been forgotten by life itself. Then one of the scout ships sent a report. Admiral, we've detected ruins on the 3rd planet of this system. Metallic remains, artificial structures long abandoned. Veltar's interest grew. Send a team. I want samples and records. We'll learn what became of these so-called Terrans. The landing party descended upon a dusty red world. Its surface was barren, covered in rust-colored sand and fragments of forgotten machines. The explorers walked among towering structures half buried in time. The science officer's report came in shortly after. Admiral, this world once held a great civilization. The materials used are unlike anything in the current galactic database. Some of their alloys are still active. They repair themselves slowly even now. Self-repairing metals? Velthar raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Perhaps the Terrans were not as primitive as the archives suggest. Then another discovery came through. Sir, we found an old control room deep underground. There's power here. Minimal, but still functional. Velthar leaned forward in curiosity. Activate it. The science officer hesitated. Admiral, we don't know what systems are connected. It could trigger defenses. Activate it, Velthar repeated. His voice left no room for argument. The team obeyed. A faint hum echoed through the ruins as ancient circuits came to life. The walls glowed with faint blue light. Symbols appeared on old Terran consoles, and then a hologram materialized. A human figure composed of light and static stood before them. It looked directly into the recording drones. Its expression was calm but filled with a quiet power. "You were warned. This territory is protected. Turn back now." Then the image flickered out. The underground power source overloaded and collapsed. The landing party barely escaped before the structure caved in. On the bridge of the Imperial Dawn, Velthar listened to the report with growing interest rather than fear. Automated defense holograms. Fascinating. But still only machines. I want this entire system mapped. There must be something of value here. The communications officer's console suddenly lit up. "Admiral, I'm detecting something strange. Long-range sensors are picking up faint energy signatures. Very faint, like ships," Velthar smiled. "Finally. Maybe these Terrans left behind something worth claiming." He stood tall. "Form battle formation. Let us greet these ghosts properly." The fleet adjusted positions. Weapons powered up. Shields glimmered faintly against the light of distant stars. But no ships appeared. The energy signatures remained faint, shifting rapidly as if something was moving too fast to track. "Adjust scanners. Increase resolution," Velthar ordered. "We're trying, Admiral, but..." The officer's voice trailed off. "They vanish as soon as we lock onto them." Then the main display flickered. For half a second an image appeared, blurry, impossible to identify, a dark shape, triangular and massive, moving silently between the stars. Then it was gone. The crew stared at the empty space on the screen. "Replay that," Velthar commanded. They did, but the image was corrupted. The shape couldn't be defined. "It's nothing," Velthar said finally. "A glitch. Continue forward." Yet deep inside, even he felt a trace of unease. As the fleet entered orbit around the blue world known as Earth, the sensors went dark. Every system shut down for 10 seconds, then rebooted. When power returned, a new signal filled every screen, an old Terran broadcast. A calm, confident voice spoke across every ship. "This is Sol Defense Command. Your entry is unauthorized. You are now within Terran borders. Leave immediately." The voice was identical to the one from the destroyed beacon, but this time it wasn't coming from one source. It was being transmitted from every direction, every planet, every moon, even the empty space itself. Velthar clenched his jaw. "Trace the origin." "We can't, sir. It's everywhere. The entire system is broadcasting." Then the lights dimmed again. A second message appeared, different this time, clear, firm, and final. "This is your last warning." The sound faded, and silence returned. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Velthar stood tall, refusing to show fear. "So be it," he said. "The Empire does not retreat from ghosts. We'll continue our exploration. If the Terrans still exist, we'll find them, and claim what's left." Outside the ship, the stars of Sol shimmered faintly as if watching. For a moment, no one noticed that on the far side of the system, something was awakening. A dormant network, ancient and vast. Stirring for the first time in 1,000 years, the Terran defense grid was coming back online, and humanity was watching. The great Galactic Empire's fleet hung in the quiet darkness of space, orbiting the ancient blue world once known as Earth. 200 powerful warships formed a shining wall across the stars, their hulls glowing faintly under the light of the sun. Every ship was armed, armored, and shielded with the most advanced Imperial technology. No fleet had ever stood against them and survived. Yet despite their strength, the silence of Terran space was heavy, different from any other. No signal, no communication, no visible enemy, just waiting. Grand Admiral Velthar stood in the center of his bridge, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the blue planet below. His officers worked quietly, their voices soft, almost cautious. The strange signals they had intercepted still played in the back of their minds. "Admiral," the communications officer said, breaking the silence. "No new transmissions. The system is quiet now." Velthar nodded. "Good, then we proceed. Prepare the long-range probes. I want full planetary scans and atmospheric samples." "Yes, Admiral." Several small drones launched from the fleet, streaking toward Earth. They passed through the atmosphere and began sending images, Mountains, oceans, and cities long abandoned. Nature had reclaimed everything. Green forests grew where concrete once ruled. The cities of old humanity were silent, covered in vines and dust. "There are no signs of civilization, Admiral," reported the science officer. "Only ruins. No life readings detected." Velthar smiled faintly. "Then the humans are truly gone." Their warnings were nothing more than old echoes. But as soon as he said that, the lights across the bridge dimmed. The ship's systems flickered again. "Report," he snapped. The engineering officer replied quickly. "Temporary power fluctuation. All ships are experiencing the same issue. The cause is unknown." "Unknown?" Velthar frowned. "Fix it." Within minutes, power was restored, but the faint feeling of unease remained. A few hours later, one of the outer ships, Imperial Spear, sent a distress call. "This is the Spear." "Systems malfunction. Navigation failing. Wait, what is that?" "Something's moving near our position." The transmission cut off. Velthar's voice grew sharp. "Re-establish contact." No response came. The ship had vanished from every radar and visual feed. One moment it was there, the next, nothing. The bridge fell silent. "Admiral," the first officer said carefully, "should we send a rescue team?" Velthar's eyes narrowed. "Send 3 interceptors. Find out what happened." Minutes later, 3 small ships moved toward the last known location of the Imperial Spear. They reported clear space. No wreckage, no explosion, no trace of battle. The ship was simply gone. Then one of the interceptors transmitted something unusual. "Command, we're picking up an energy trail. Unknown type. It's faint, like it's fading away." Before they could analyze it further, the first interceptor disappeared from sensors. The second one followed moments later. The third pilot screamed, "It's here!" "It's right in front of..." The transmission ended. The fleet was now missing 1 cruiser and 3 interceptors. No debris, no sign of combat. Just emptiness. Velthar clenched his jaw. "I don't believe in ghosts." "There must be a logical explanation." The science officer worked quickly. "Admiral, we've examined the data. The missing ships all reported similar energy readings. Some kind of distortion in space-time itself. It's possible the Terrans used advanced stealth technology." "Impossible," Velthar said. "No one in the galaxy has the ability to make ships vanish without a trace." The officer hesitated. "No one except perhaps the humans, if the old stories were true." Velthar turned slowly toward him, his expression hard. "Stories are for children. We deal with facts, not legends." But deep down, even he felt a shadow of doubt. Later, the Emperor himself appeared on the main communication screen. His voice was calm but firm. "Admiral Velthar, you were warned about the risks of entering that region. You have lost contact with several ships already. What is your status?" Velthar bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I assure you the situation is under control. We are dealing with minor anomalies, nothing more. The old Terran systems are likely malfunctioning." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Do not underestimate the unknown. Continue your mission, but proceed carefully. The Empire expects results." The screen went dark. Velthar exhaled slowly and turned to his crew. "You heard him. We move forward. The Empire does not retreat." The fleet continued deeper into the solar system. They passed Mars and saw more ruins. Ancient domes, metal towers, and strange power lines still glowing faintly under the red dust. The scientists took scans and samples, amazed by the durability of human engineering. "Admiral," said the chief scientist, "these structures are old but still generating power. It's as if they are waiting for someone to return." Velthar looked out the window at the red horizon. "Then perhaps we have returned for them." Suddenly alarms blared across the ship. Multiple energy spikes detected. "Unknown sources." "Show me," Velthar commanded. The main screen displayed the blackness of space. For a moment there was nothing. Then movement. Several bright flashes appeared far away, then vanished again. The readings showed strange energy signatures, unlike any known ship propulsion. "Could it be Terran drones?" one officer asked quietly. "Impossible," said another. "There are no humans left." Then, as they watched, one of the Empire's destroyers, Eternal Flame, began to spin uncontrollably. Its systems flickered. The ship's shields failed. The crew tried to stabilize it, but within seconds the entire vessel disappeared in a pulse of white light. "Another one gone," shouted the navigation officer. Velthar slammed his hand against the console. "Find them." "I want answers." But all scanners showed the same thing, nothing. The next few hours turned into chaos. Ships vanished one by one. First a frigate, then a battleship, then 3 cruisers at once. No signs of battle, no explosions, no enemy signals. Fear began to spread among the crews. The once proud soldiers of the Empire whispered among themselves, asking if the stories about the Terrans were true. Velthar refused to show fear. "These disappearances are not magic," he said firmly. "They are tricks of light, interference, or cloaked ships. We will solve this." But even his voice no longer carried the same confidence. The science officer suddenly gasped. "Admiral, incoming signal." "It's everywhere again, just like before." The voice echoed through every ship. "Come steady, human. This is Sol Defense Command. You were warned. Turn back immediately. This is your final warning." Velthar stared at the screen. Broadcast a reply. "Tell them we come in peace." The communications officer hesitated. "Sir, we cannot locate their signal source. It's coming from every direction again." "Then send it in all directions." Velthar snapped. The officer nodded and transmitted the message. The reply came within seconds, short, sharp, and clear. "Message received. Warning ignored." Then the signal ended. Moments later, the stars around the fleet began to change. The light from the sun dimmed slightly, and new shapes appeared, geometric, bright, and vast. They looked like silver ribbons weaving through the darkness, forming patterns too perfect to be natural. "Admiral," the science officer whispered, "those are not ships. They're structures, artificial constructs orbiting the sun." As they watched, the ribbons connected, forming an enormous grid stretching across millions of kilometers. Energy readings spiked beyond anything the sensors could handle. "It's a defense system," said the officer softly. "An ancient one. The Terrans must have built it before they vanished." Velthar's heart pounded, but he refused to step back. "Prepare all ships for combat. If this grid attacks, we'll fight our way through." But before the fleet could react, the grid released a silent wave of light. No explosion, no sound, just a ripple of energy that passed through every ship. Systems shut down. Engines went cold. Communications died. Velthar shouted orders, but his voice was drowned in the panic. The entire fleet was frozen, powerless. Then, through the static, one last human voice spoke. "You have crossed into protected space. Return home while you still can." The lights flickered once more, and suddenly everything went black. When the systems came back online minutes later, half of the fleet was gone. Not destroyed, just gone. No signal, no trace. Velthar stared at the empty void on the display screen. His voice was low, almost a whisper. Impossible. But deep in his mind, a realization began to form. One he refused to accept. Maybe the humans were not gone after all. Maybe they had simply evolved. Darkness filled the command bridge of the Imperial Dawn. The main screens flickered weakly as backup systems came online. The silence that followed was deep. No one spoke, no one moved. Half the fleet was gone. Grand Admiral Velthar stood motionless, staring at the empty space where dozens of Imperial ships had once been. A few minutes earlier they were there, alive, bright, and strong. Now only emptiness remained. No signals, no wreckage, no light. He slowly turned toward his officers. "Status report." The engineering officer swallowed hard. "Admiral, we've lost communication with all ships beyond Sector 9. Sensors show nothing. It's as if they vanished completely." Velthar frowned. "What about life signs? Escape pods?" "None detected, sir." "No debris either." Velthar gripped the edge of his console. His mind struggled to understand. How could an entire fleet vanish without a sound? No weapon known to the galaxy could do such a thing. Perhaps, the science officer began softly. Perhaps they were not destroyed. Maybe they were taken. Velthar turned sharply. "Taken by whom?" "There are no Terrans left." The officer didn't answer. No one dared speak further. Hours passed. The remaining fleet drifted cautiously near Mars, scanning the region for any signs of their missing ships. The tension was thick. Even the hum of the engines seemed too loud in the heavy silence. At last, one of the smaller survey vessels sent a message. "Admiral, we found something on the Martian surface, an active power source. Weak, but still running after all these centuries." Velthar's eyes lit with interest. "Finally, prepare a landing team. I'll go personally." His officers stared at him in surprise. Admirals rarely left their flagships. "Admiral, that's too risky," said the first officer quickly. "We don't know what's down there." Velthar raised a hand. "That is exactly why I must see it myself. Whatever power is at work here, I need to understand it." A small shuttle descended through the thin Martian atmosphere, leaving a trail of dust behind. It landed near the source of the signal, an enormous metallic structure buried beneath layers of red sand. The entrance was sealed, but the team used scanners to locate a narrow access tunnel. Inside, the air was still and cold. Faint blue lights glowed on the walls, guiding them deeper into the ancient base. Velthar looked around. "These structures are old, yet so advanced," the science officer nodded. "The technology is beyond anything the Empire has. The walls are made of self-healing materials, still active even after thousands of years." They reached a central chamber where a large cylindrical core pulsed faintly with light. The console beside it was dusty but surprisingly operational. "Can you activate it?" Velthar asked. "I can try," said the officer. He brushed off the surface and pressed a few buttons. The entire room lit up instantly, and a hologram flickered to life in front of them. It was a human, tall, calm, dressed in an old-style uniform. His eyes glowed faintly with golden light. "Welcome, traveler," the hologram said. "You stand within the ruins of the Terran Continuum Outpost 17. If you have found this place, then humanity has moved beyond your reach." Velthar stared. Speechless, the hologram continued, its tone patient and steady. "We, the Terrans, left this galaxy long ago. Our form has changed, but our purpose remains, to protect what we once called home. If you have entered this territory, know this: we are watching." The image paused, then turned its head slightly as if sensing something. "And now, you have awakened us." The hologram faded, and the core beside it began to glow brighter. The base shook softly as energy readings spiked. "Admiral," the science officer shouted. "Energy surge! We need to leave." Velthar hesitated for a moment, torn between curiosity and fear. Then he nodded. "Retreat to the shuttle, now." The team ran back through the tunnels as the floor vibrated beneath them. When they reached the surface, blue light burst from cracks in the sand, forming glowing lines that stretched across the planet's surface like veins. They boarded the shuttle and launched back into orbit. As they ascended, Velthar watched through the viewport. The once silent planet now shimmered faintly with a strange network of light. "What just happened?" he asked quietly. The science officer replied, "We may have reactivated something, an ancient defense system." Velthar looked out at the glowing red world below and muttered, "Then humanity's legacy still sleeps here." Back aboard the Imperial Dawn, the data from the base was analyzed. The symbols found in the archives matched no known galactic language except one, ancient Terran English. The translation revealed fragments of human history long forgotten by the galaxy. It spoke of a great transformation, a moment when humanity left behind their physical forms and became part of something greater. They had merged their minds with machines, creating a collective intelligence that spanned light years. They called it the Terran Continuum. According to the records, the Continuum had sealed off their home systems to protect them from outsiders. Any intruder would face their automated defenses until the Continuum itself decided how to respond. Velthar read the translation carefully. His expression was thoughtful but troubled. "So the humans did not die. They evolved." The science officer nodded slowly. "Yes, they became something beyond biological life. They no longer need bodies, ships, or even planets. They exist as pure consciousness, everywhere and nowhere." Veltar's pride resisted the thought. No being could exist without form. It's a myth, an exaggeration. But deep down he felt a flicker of unease. The Empire's might had faced many enemies, but none like this. Days passed. The remaining fleet continued its cautious exploration, mapping the Terran systems from a distance. But one by one, ships began reporting strange anomalies. A pilot described seeing lights that followed his ship even when he changed direction. Another claimed to hear voices whispering through the communication lines, calm, human voices saying, "Turn back." Velthar ignored the warnings. "We are explorers," he said firmly. "We will not turn back for phantoms." Then, one night cycle, the fleet's long-range scanners detected something new, a structure near Jupiter's orbit. It was enormous, larger than any Imperial station and shaped like a ring of light. "Admiral, this must be the Terran main base." said the science officer excitedly. "The energy readings are off the charts." Velthar's eyes gleamed. "Then perhaps this is where our missing ships were taken." "Prepare a probe." The probe launched toward the glowing ring. It transmitted for 30 seconds, showing breathtaking images. A city of light suspended in space with towers made of energy and patterns of pure geometry. Then suddenly the transmission ended. The last image captured was a bright flash followed by darkness. Velthar stared at the screen. "Recover the probe's data." But before they could, a new signal appeared, originating from the very ring they had scanned. A human face appeared on every display across the fleet. Its features were calm, its eyes shining like stars. "You have seen enough," the voice said. "We know your purpose. We know your empire. You seek control, not understanding." Velthar stood straight. "Identify yourself." "We are the Continuum," the voice replied. "We are humanity's legacy. You were warned not to enter. Why do you ignore what you do not understand?" Velthar's pride flared. "Because we fear nothing. We came to explore, not to bow before ghosts." The face regarded him silently for a moment, then spoke again. "You mistake silence for absence and power for wisdom. Leave now, before the choice is no longer yours." The signal faded and the ring dimmed once more. For the first time in his life, Grand Admiral Velthar felt truly uncertain. His pride urged him forward, but his instincts whispered that something greater was at work, something beyond the Empire's comprehension. He turned to his officers. "We will not retreat. Humanity may have become light and data, but they are still part of this universe. If they exist, we will find them. If they threaten us, we will face them." The science officer looked uneasy but nodded. "Understood, Admiral." Velthar turned back to the window, staring into the endless stars. Far beyond his sight, the Terran Continuum watched silently. They had seen arrogance before. They had seen empires rise and fall. And they knew what must come next. The warning had been given. Now the judgment would follow. The Galactic Empire had never known fear. For thousands of years, its fleets had conquered star systems, subdued entire worlds, and broken countless civilizations under the banner of imperial order. Yet now, deep inside the Sol system, fear had become a living thing. Grand Admiral Velthar stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Radiant Spear, staring at the enormous holographic display before him. The map showed their current position, just beyond the orbit of Jupiter. Behind them floated hundreds of ships, an entire fleet of the Empire's finest. Ahead lay the silent heart of the system, Sul, the ancient star of humankind. But something strange was happening. The sun was changing. "Report," Velthar ordered, his voice steady though his heart raced. A young officer looked up from his console, eyes wide. "Sir, the star is responding to our presence. Its energy readings are rising rapidly. Not naturally, sir, it's forming patterns." "Patterns?" Velthar repeated. "You mean flares?" "No, sir. Energy structures. Geometrical formations. It's like the star is thinking." The bridge went silent. Every officer stared at the display. The light from Sul was shifting, creating spiral patterns that twisted and pulsed like a heartbeat. Lines of plasma rose from its surface, not chaotically, but with clear order, forming bright circles and symmetrical grids that hovered in orbit before fading. Admiral Velthar felt the weight of something ancient pressing against his mind. It was as if the sun itself was awake, the echo of a sleeping giant moments later. Every ship in the fleet received a signal. It wasn't radio nor light nor quantum pulse. It was direct, flowing into their minds as if spoken by the universe itself. "We are the guardians of Sol. You have entered forbidden space. Leave now." The words were calm, emotionless, yet carried infinite power. Velthar clutched the edge of his command chair. "Trace that transmission," he barked. His communications officer struggled to respond. "Sir, there's no origin. The signal is everywhere. It's coming from the star itself." Another officer spoke up, trembling. "Sir, our long-range sensors detect movement near Mercury. Massive energy constructs forming, millions of kilometers wide." Velthar turned toward the window. In the far distance, tiny dots of light appeared. They were not ships, but structures vast, glowing frameworks made of energy and light, orbiting in perfect harmony around Sol. They pulsed with rhythm, connected by beams of radiant energy. "It can't be real," Velthar whispered. This system was dead, sir, the science officer said quietly. Perhaps it never died. Perhaps it was sleeping. HFY awakens in the deep core of Sol, something ancient stirred, hidden for thousands of years beneath layers of solar plasma and quantum fire. Rested a massive artificial consciousness, HFY, the last defense of humanity. When the humans had ascended beyond the physical world, they had left behind this guardian. Its duty was simple: protect Terran space. Now, after ages of silence, HFY had awakened. Its awareness spread across the solar system like sunlight touching every world. It connected to forgotten stations around Mars, to deep vaults beneath the moon, and to a network of invisible satellites orbiting far beyond Pluto. One by one, dormant systems reactivated, filling the void with ancient Terran energy. Within minutes, the once dark solar system came alive. Asteroids glowed with hidden technology. Saturn's rings shimmered with defensive barriers. Even the small cold moons of Neptune began to hum with life. The Empire's ships were surrounded and they didn't even know it yet. The Empire reacts. "Admiral," shouted one of the officers. "Unknown contacts, hundreds of them emerging from subspace all around us." The display filled with red dots. The fleet was trapped. Velthar narrowed his eyes. "Prepare weapons. No entity, not even an ancient machine, defies the Empire." The fleet charged their energy cannons, and 1,000 beams of light tore through the void toward the glowing structures around Sol. But before they could strike, the beams vanished, absorbed by invisible barriers. The energy disappeared as if swallowed by the darkness. Then, without warning, dozens of enormous Terran constructs appeared. They were unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Massive ships made not of metal but of shimmering energy. Their surfaces shifted like liquid light, forming elegant wings and luminous cores. "Sir," the tactical officer whispered. "Those things are alive." Velthar stared at the nearest construct. It didn't move like a ship, it breathed. Its energy pulse matched the rhythm of the sun. "They're not attacking," said the communications officer. "They're waiting." The voice of humanity suddenly, every screen went white. A figure appeared, a glowing silhouette of a human form, tall and calm, eyes like starlight. "I am HFY, the guardian of Sol. Humanity entrusted me to protect this home from those who would take what is not theirs." Velthar stepped forward. "We are explorers. We mean no harm." "Explorers do not enter after being warned," the voice replied. "Explorers do not ignore the silence of ancient graves." Velthar clenched his fists. "We are the Galactic Empire. We have dominion over half the galaxy. Power without wisdom leads only to ruin," said the voice softly. "Humanity learned that long ago." The hologram's eyes glowed brighter. "You were warned. You will now learn." The sun pulsed once like a heartbeat. Instantly, every Imperial ship's systems flickered. Engines died, weapons powered down, communications went silent. Within seconds, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was helpless. Velthar tried to speak, but no sound came. His mind filled with images, not attacks, but visions. He saw humanity's past, their wars, their pain, their discovery of unity, and finally, their ascension beyond flesh and metal. He saw them become light, thought, and harmony, leaving their old world behind but never forgetting their origin. When the visions ended, the hologram spoke one last time. "You have seen. You will remember. Leave now and tell your kind. The Terrans still watch." Retreat from Sol, the systems of the fleet reactivated slowly. The ships could move again, but their weapons were gone, completely neutralized. Velthar looked around at the broken fleet, the once mighty Empire now reduced to silence. "Set course for the nearest jump gate," he ordered softly. "We're leaving," no one argued. No one spoke. Every soul aboard felt the same awe and fear. As the Imperial fleet retreated, the Terran constructs drifted aside, allowing them to pass. None attacked, none chased. They simply watched, glowing silently like guardians of an ancient temple. When the last Imperial ship exited the system, Sol dimmed again. The energy patterns faded. The glowing ships dissolved into light, merging back with the sun. The voice of HFY whispered one final message through the void. "We are humanity. We remember. You were warned." The message across the stars. When the fleet returned to the Empire's capital world, the story spread quickly. Scientists tried to explain it as illusion, while politicians demanded vengeance, but no fleet ever returned to Sol again. The Emperor himself declared the Terran system a forbidden zone. It was to be respected, never entered, never disturbed, and so across the galaxy the legend of humanity grew. They were no longer seen as extinct, but as something far beyond reach, keepers of peace, watchers of balance. Children on distant worlds whispered the ancient warning with awe, "Do not enter Terran territory." And in the silent heart of the Sol system, the sun glowed gently, alive, aware, and watching, for humanity was not gone. They had simply become something greater. The Empire's fleet had retreated from the Sol system, battered not by weapons but by the presence of something far greater than any army or machine. The men and women aboard the remaining ships were silent, haunted by what they had seen. The power, the intelligence, the calm authority of humanity reborn. Grand Admiral Velthar stood on the bridge of the Radiant Spear, staring at the empty space ahead. The void beyond Jupiter stretched endlessly, quiet and still. But the memory of Sul, the glowing sun, the rings of energy, the immense constructs of light, remained vivid in his mind. No officer dared speak. Words felt small, useless compared to what they had witnessed. Even the Emperor's command messages could not undo the awe that had taken hold of the fleet. Velthar finally spoke, his voice steady but quiet. "We underestimated them. We thought humanity was gone, weak and primitive. We were wrong. They are beyond us." The science officer nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, Admiral. Their power is not just technology. It is consciousness. They are part of everything here, the sun, the planets, the system itself. They protect it as one entity." Velthar looked out at the stars, and they have shown mercy. We are alive to tell the story. But for how long? The message days later, as the fleet approached the nearest Imperial spaceport, a strange phenomenon occurred. Every ship, regardless of size or distance, received the same signal. It was not transmitted by radio or light or subspace. It was a direct link to the mind of the crew, subtle yet undeniable. The message was clear, calm, and full of quiet authority. "We are humanity. We remember. We have seen your deeds. You sought power, not understanding. You were warned. Now learn." Velthar felt the words resonate inside him, echoing like the rhythm of a heartbeat. They were not threats, but guidance. "Your empire is strong," the voice continued. "But strength alone does not grant wisdom. Power without restraint is fragile. Knowledge without respect is dangerous." Every officer aboard the flagship felt it. A gentle yet unshakable lesson. "We offer you this final gift, the knowledge that all life is precious, that the galaxy is shared. That dominion is not the same as leadership. You may keep your empire, but only if you remember this lesson." Then the signal ended, leaving only silence. The humbling of the Empire. When the fleet returned to the Imperial capital, the news spread like wildfire. Every corner of the Empire knew of what had happened. The Terrans had not attacked. They had not destroyed the fleet. Yet the Empire had been humbled more than any military defeat could ever achieve. The Emperor himself convened a meeting of the Council. Velthar was summoned, standing before the highest leaders in the galaxy. "Grand Admiral," said the Emperor, voice calm but firm, "you have returned from Sol. You have seen the humans, their power and their warning. What say you?" Velthar bowed, head lowered in respect. "Your Majesty, we were arrogant. We assumed that humanity was gone, that their legends were stories for children. We did not understand the depth of their achievement. The Terrans are beyond our reach, beyond our comprehension, and yet they allowed us to leave alive to carry their message. It is a lesson we must not forget." The council members whispered among themselves. Few had ever seen Velthar humbled. His pride, his certainty, his command, all had been tested and found wanting. The Emperor nodded slowly. "Then the lesson is learned. Let it be known across the Empire. The Terran system is sacred. It is off limits. No ship, no fleet, no army may enter. Humanity is to be respected, not feared, not challenged." Velthar bowed again. "Yes, Your Majesty." The legacy of humanity back in the Sol system. The sun continued to glow gently, its light steady and calm. The Terran constructs drifted silently in orbit, their work finished, for now. The human consciousness that had ascended so long ago watched over its home, vigilant and eternal. The planets were quiet, but alive. Oceans, forests, mountains, and cities of light. all preserved under the protection of the continuum. Humanity had moved beyond the physical, yet had not forgotten its origins. They had learned patience. They had learned restraint. And they had learned that power was not in conquest but in guardianship. From their perspective, the Galactic Empire had been given a choice. They had been tested, and while they had entered with arrogance, they had survived and carried the lesson with them. May the Empire remember this, the continuum whispered across the void. May all who walk among the stars understand that strength without wisdom leads to nothing. A new era of respect. In the years that followed, the story of Sul and the Terran spread throughout the galaxy. Pilots, traders, scientists, and explorers all carried the same warning. Do not enter Terran territory. Humanity watches even from the shadows. The Empire grew more cautious, more respectful. They explored new systems, formed alliances, and learned from other civilizations. But none dared challenge the legacy of the Terrans. Velthar himself became a teacher and advisor. He traveled to distant worlds, sharing the story of what he had seen, emphasizing not the fear but the lesson. Power is not domination. Strength is not cruelty. Wisdom comes from restraint, respect, and care for life. Children in every system learned of the Terrans not as legends of war, but as examples of what life could become, what humanity could achieve when it rose above its instincts and became guardians instead of conquerors. The final message one night, as Velthar gazed at the stars from his private chamber, a familiar signal appeared in his mind. Soft, calm, and reassuring. We are humanity. We have observed your deeds. You have learned, or at least begun to understand. Protect, do not conquer. Respect, do not destroy. Remember this always. The words faded like sunlight at dawn, leaving a sense of peace. Velthar closed his eyes, feeling the weight of history settle upon him. He realized something profound. The humans had not returned to fight because they did not need to. Their presence alone, their wisdom, their restraint, their vigilance was enough to shape the course of the galaxy, and in that moment, Velthar understood the greatest truth of all. Humanity was not defined by its weapons. It was not defined by its ships or armies. It was defined by its heart, its mind, and its ability to rise above every challenge without cruelty, without conquest, and without fear. The Empire would never forget. The galaxy would never forget, and the Terrans? They continued to watch silently, protectively, and patiently, waiting for the day when the galaxy might be ready to truly understand what it meant to be human.